What common misconception infuriates you? Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy. Thanks. Story 1. If they give me a raise at work, I'll bump up a tax bracket, and I'll actually make less. Story 2. OCD is not some cute obsession with cleanliness and order. It can ruin lives and comes in many forms. Story 3. That you can zoom in on a digital picture and it gets more clear. Story 5. The Dunning-Kruger effect. It's not as simple as dumb people overestimate their intelligence while smart people underestimate it. Once you feel 100% certain in your knowledge, all *new information looks like misinformation. Once you believe yourself an expert, you're far less receptive to facts that contradict your position. Self-doubt is what keeps your mind open. The nagging sense that what you know might not be true is what motivates intelligent people to keep pursuing knowledge. Studies even show the decay effect actually *horseshoes*. People at the very bottom and the top tend to overemphasize their own intelligence. When leading scientists are disproven by new discoveries, it's not uncommon they personally reject the new science. The Nobel disease https://n. Wikipedia. org. Wiki. Nobel_disease describes when Nobel Prize winners go on to become quacks, believing their genius qualifies them as experts in things outside their expertise. Story 7. The quote, "Well-behaved women seldom make history," is frequently misquoted. Professor Laurel Ulrich stated this in a 1976 essay which details how women in early America have been lost to history as their stories weren't considered important by those who wrote history. Her quote is not meant to minimize the lives of women who perform stereotypical women's work such as mothers and wives, but to stress the issue of women's voices being lost in history. I think it's important to support women who do not live within these archetypes, but not at the expense of women who enjoy being within these roles. Ultimately, having the voices of diverse women and gender-diverse people being documented in history is incredibly important, which should include both well-behaved and rebellious women. Story 9. I just talked about this in my history class today. That Nazi Germany was more tolerant of black people than the 1940s US. Yes, they did treat black athletes well during the 1936 Olympics, but that was a very successful PR campaign by Hitler and the Nazis to get the moral high ground on the West and hide the anti-Semitism that was already underway. In reality, the Nazis considered blacks subhuman, on the same level as, if not below, Jews. Black Germans were persecuted during the Nazi years. They weren't subject to mass extermination, and there is some debate as to whether they count as Holocaust victims, but thousands were killed and suffered greatly under the Nazi regime. Of course, that's not to say African Americans weren't treated horribly in the US, of course they were. Also, many countries were more tolerant of minorities than the US, allied countries included. But any time we can avoid playing into Nazi propaganda, we should. Story 10. Introversion and social anxiety are not the same things. Not every introvert has social anxiety or is a poor communicator. Stop lumping people together and just calling it introversion. I'm introverted. I know how to communicate well. I just don't want to with you. Story 11. That going out in the cold without a coat causes the flu. Story 12. Life expectancy. People think hundreds of years ago you died at 40. Completely false. Infant mortality was extremely high, so the average is skewed. If you made it out of infancy, you had a pretty good chance of becoming old. Story 13. As a clinical researcher, the overuse of psychiatric affective disorders in everyday conversation, so OCD, KMS, etc. Story 14. People assuming correlation equals causation. Story 15. As an adult with ADHD, I am infuriated when other adults think ADHD is a child disease and isn't a horrible affliction for adults that we may struggle with daily. Story 16. Men don't cry. This stereotype needs to go. Men deserve to express their emotions just as much as anyone else. Story 17. How every arsehole is described on Reddit as a narcissist. It's a psychological condition and it's so overused. Sometimes people are legit just dickheads without a pathology. Story 18. The hospital is clean. It is not clean. Story 19. Vasectomies are 100% reversible. Story 20. Believing that one or two anecdotal experiences to the contrary completely disproves something that is generally true. Story 21. Why decay is the joke it is today because a whole lot of people worked their asses off to prevent it. Nothing happened for the general public because so many engineers, programmers, and others put in the long hours it needed to correct the issue. We have another Y2K bug coming up soonish that is going to be needed to be addressed sooner rather than later. Next issue year is 2038 https://computer. How stuff works. Question 75. HTM. Story 22. Republics **** democracies. Tons of Americans seem to believe that there's some difference between the two. Saying we are a republic, not a democracy is like saying I am an oak tree, but I am not a plant. The statement is nonsensical and has zero truth value. Story 23. Adults that don't understand how tax brackets work. No, Bob, you actually won't make less money if you get a raise. Story 24. That weed is a gateway drug. Story 25. That the video game market crashed worldwide in 1983, and Nintendo saved the industry. That's true in North America, but definitely not in other places. In fact, the Famicom had competition in Japan even on release, and the NES outright bombed in the UK due to gaming computers having basically taken over the console market. Story 27. Fat people are lazy. Yes, some, but not all. I'm at the gym all the time. I struggle with food, but I'll be damned if I'm lazy. Story 28. Just because you explain the rules, or even enforce the rules, does not mean you support those rules. Story 29. That the symbol of the upside-down cross is satanic, evil, witchcraft, etc. I see so many Catholics and Christians going off on people who have upside-down crosses on clothes and stuff because it's evil. No, it is not. The upside-down cross comes from Peter, who decided to be crucified upside down because he felt he was not worthy of dying in the same fashion that Christ did. It is a symbol of honor, love, and respect for Jesus. Story 31. All millennials are lazy and entitled. There are plenty of lazy, entitled millennials, and boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Zers. No need to single us out. Just because we didn't get drafted to fight in Vietnam at 18 years old doesn't mean our entire generation is lazy. Story 32. Do you think that flying object which you could not identify was a UFO, if only there was a short acronym to describe what I saw? Story 33. If you're quiet, you're rude. Lol. No, I'm just shy and rather not talk to people I don't know that well. Story 34. Saying that severe psychological damage and mental illnesses aren't disabilities because you can't visibly see anything wrong with them. Story 35. That my mental issues can be fixed if I just try harder. Story 36. Having a resting bitch face doesn't make me aggressive. Story 37. When centrists think that Democrats are the left. Story 38. Most poor countries aren't just massive pits of poverty and slums. They just have a larger share of poor people than middle class or upper class. Story 39. People not understanding what the word theory means. I have a theory: if I strap a propeller to my car, it will move. That's not theory, that is hypothesis. But that's fine because everyone understands what you mean. But this is causing people to think theories in science are the same thing. They are not at all. A theory in science is proven to be the most likely reason for something using evidence. Sure, it can change upon finding new evidence, but it is not just a baseless idea. Story 40. That sufficient education can fix any problem. No. Just no. We all have limitations that can't, and never will, be overcome regardless of how smart we are. Education can mitigate limitations and enhance your talents. Education is not a panacea. Story 41. That bisexuality doesn't exist, especially for men, or that my sexuality is defined by my partner. If I'm with a woman, I am not straight, I am still bi. If I'm with a man, I am not gay, I am still bi. If I'm with an NB individual, I am still bi. Also, bisexuality does not exclude attraction to trans individuals. Also, I am not going to cheat just because I am bi. Story 43. That you shock a flatline to bring someone back to life. Story 44. The incorrect use of gaslighting and intrusive thoughts. As someone who was in an abusive relationship and attempted to commit suicide, it's just disrespectful and minimizes the trauma people go through that actually experienced it. Story 45. A big one around where I live. Brown recluses are an incredibly dangerous monster that will attack you on sight, and if you're not taken to the hospital immediately, then the wound will turn necrotic and rot your body away. Yes, they're venomous, but a brown recluse bite only has a very slightly higher risk of turning necrotic than literally any other spider bite. A typical brown recluse bite will hurt and swell for a few days and then return to normal, much like virtually any other spider bite. They're also inclined to stay in out-of-the-way places and are noticeably docile compared to other spiders. Bites generally only occur when someone is intentionally screwing with one or accidentally grabs, touches one when unwittingly touching their habitat like under fallen wood and such. No one ever talks about wolf spiders, but they're way more aggressive than any brown recluse you'll ever come across. Story 47. The misconception that Republicans or anyone who identifies as conservative are all far-right, MAGA, alt-right, white supremacist, neo-Nazi animals that destroys democracies. We are not that insane as everyone else thinks. Story 48. That a 6-week embryo has a heartbeat. It doesn't even have a heart, dumbass. Story 49. Trickle-down economics works for all. And it has a nitrogen monoxide way done anything more than create a wealth divide worse than before the French Revolution. Story 50. People like to believe there's someone out there for everyone, but honestly this just isn't true. Or that we only have one true love. Story 51. Black widow spider bites are fatal. Story 52. That anything can be fixed in 5 minutes or less, and there is a YouTube video to show you how. But they never fix a damn thing. Story 53. Begging the question is not the same as raising the question. When someone is begging the question, it means that a premise of their argument assumes the truth of their conclusion. These arguments have a circular, self-justifying quality. For example, if someone argues that God is all-knowing because the Bible says that he is, and the Bible is correct because it was written by an all-knowing God, they are begging the question. More subtle examples are more common, as in, psychoactive stimulants are bad for the brain because they activate the sympathetic nervous system. This argument puts forth the definition of a stimulant and asserts that it is bad without elaboration. More long-winded arguments can appear valid, when in fact, they are circles of definitions and assertions without any rigorous or grounded explanation. Story 55. That pro-choice equals pro-abortion. A person can be opposed to abortion in general and still support a woman's right to choose for herself. Story 56. Deleted. Story 57. That government should run like a business or a household. Story 58. That being out in the cold asterisk gives you a cold asterisk. Story 59. That baby boomers had life handed to them on a platter and didn't have to work hard for anything. Sure, there are a lot of wealthy boomers, but it's because there's so damn many of them to begin with. My generation are the children of boomers, and I can tell you firsthand how hard our parents worked, and how few if any luxuries we had growing up. The stigma that has caused it to be restricted is causing real damage to families across the United States. Therefore, if you misused it to party, you are a selfish part of the problem, but at a higher level, our government should be ashamed that it is failing its citizens by buying into the stigma. The overwhelming majority of people don't understand how emergency systems work. Their entire perception is based on movies, television, and being told as a child, when in doubt, call 911. They'll solve the problem. It's especially prevalent in civilian criticism of police right now, but applies to fire, EMS, hazmat, and hospital services too. Peanut butter is a terrible source of protein. It is strictly inferior to a grain buckwheat when it comes to protein, if that helps frame the situation. The truth is that peanut butter is awesome because it tastes good and has a flavor that goes well with many other foods. It's infuriating that this truth is repeated by blogs targeted at mothers. It's bad advice, and people are profiting from spreading it. Story 64. That mental illness is only bad or serious enough if someone has gotten medical intervention or been admitted. There generally has to be a serious mental health issue present long before it escalates into needing medical help or going inpatient. And it should be seen as bad and serious enough. On a different note, literally every single misconception about the female body, like how people still think the vagina becomes loose from too much sex, and that simple penetration can easily make a woman orgasm, or that we all call the vulva by its wrong name all the time, or that extreme period pain is still dismissed as normal even though it's a huge indicator or reproductive health issues. I could go on. Story 65. False friends language. Especially when people use the incorrect word in their OW in first language cause of English. I'm Spanish and I hate when they use pretender to try as the English word pretend. But the worst thing is when they use billion as billion. Billion equals 1 million. Billion equals 1 million times 1 million 12 zeros. Story 66. That when you turn 21 you're starting your 21st year. I see it a lot on Instagram captions, comments. Wishing you a great 21st year. Like bro, you just completed that year. When a baby turns 1, they're starting their second year of life. Story 67. It absolutely drives me insane that people think blindness is exclusively your vision goes dark, blind spots. My condition fractures everything I see into multiple blurred images ghosting around the center object. My vision is uncorrectable and makes me functionally illiterate without massive magnification in a lot of cases, and I cannot see the ground when I am walking, especially if uneven objects are the same color. I cannot tell you how many people have been like, I saw you looking at your phone, you must be faking. Story 68. Being shy, quiet and introverted is antisocial. No, it's asocial. Antisocial is the psycho at the party that wants to fight everyone. Story 69. Should've could've, it pisses me off and I instantly lose all respect for the person